Welcome to the City Manager's Report. The City Manager's Report, a look at city updates and municipal news, and a preview of the next Oshkosh Common Council meeting agenda.
Hi there everyone, welcome to another edition of the City Manager's Report. I'm your host John Urban. Joining me as usual, City Manager for the City of Oshkosh, Mark Roloff. On today's program we're going to be talking about the upcoming Tuesday, April 14th Oshkosh Common Council meeting, the items on the agenda we're going to be talking about, and we'll also be talking now about things happening here in the Oshkosh community. Mark, thanks for being with us.
Great to be here, John.
Mark, we're going to start things off talking about what's on everyone's mind these days, of course, which is the COVID, the coronavirus, and everything else. And let's just talk a little bit about what we have for citizens in terms of resources on our website and other websites to help them through this difficult time.
We're in constant contact with all of the relevant agencies. We meet daily with the county health department to find out anything new, any new information that we have that they can share with us. Identifying trends to be prepared for things that might happen should numbers pick up, how we're responding accordingly, all the alternatives that we're looking at. But if residents are looking for stuff, there's a lot of different relevant places to get information. Certainly the Winnebago County Health Department is really the lead agency on the health emergency, and their number 232-3026, they have a hotline that you can call them about anything COVID-19 related. Aurora Healthcare has a hotline for people, and certainly they want to encourage people to use that. United Way is a great resource for nonprofits in the area that may be able to help you on certain things that you have going on. They have a 211 number. Pick it up, 211. There's somebody local who will pick up the phone. It's both the Oshkosh and Fox Cities United Ways that work together on that. The Centers for Disease Control, CDC, they have a specific website, as well as the Winnebago County Health Department's website itself, which is winnebagopublichealth.org. We encourage people to go to all of those sites depending on what information they're looking for. We regularly put out updates that we push through our city website, but we're not the foremost authority on the health-related issues. So we want people to be able to go to wherever they think those resources are. You can get some of this from our website, but they're really just links to others. And the ones we showed you earlier are things that we were talking about. But, you know, as things come up, we try different items, and we're not afraid to try something in order to prevent people from having to do too much social interaction. The social distancing is working. We're not there yet, but the progress we're making says, you know, keep it up, and we're going to be successful if we can keep it up. Minimize the number of illnesses, which will also minimize possible deaths. And that's what this is about. This is about not overstraining the healthcare system so they can take care of everybody who goes through their door.
And during this time, too, we also want to support our local businesses, and I understand we're helping to promote the Convention and Visitors Bureau website.
Yeah, the Convention and Visitors Bureau has done a great job of accessing information about restaurants and shops that are available and open, either for, in the food cases, delivery service, or just different products that might be still allowed. So they'll tell you what hours they're open. They'll give you a link to the business with their menu, their hours of operation. We want people to be able to patronize our local businesses, keep them going, because when this is all over, we're going to want to get out. But if we don't help them bridge themselves to that, it's going to be a tougher time. I know the Convention and Visitors Bureau has been encouraging people, even if you buy some gift cards, that'll keep cash in the business's pocket so they can keep serving us and then continue to service us long after this emergency is past us.
All right, this past Tuesday was Election Day, of course, and we have 32 polling sites here in the city of Oshkosh. And I understand we want to thank the poll workers and the city clerk's staff for all of their efforts throughout that day.
The city clerk's office was just outstanding in the work that they did, their dedication. They have a small army of people that you can't call them volunteers, but they get paid a very nominal amount to work long days to help out. In addition, because we had city employees whose job duties have not been deemed essential, we reallocated them. And even some people who were deemed essential, we reallocated them to go to the polling sites and just be there to help our election workers to make the process as smooth as possible. Whether they were checking people for symptoms, so that nobody inadvertently got hurt or exposed to anything. Cleaning sites, letting people just wiping down the polling booths and things like that. All those things that help make people feel more safe and secure if they chose to go vote on Tuesday. So I know City Clerk Pam Ubrig can't begin to tell anybody the depth of her appreciation for the work that everybody did. There were a lot of people that were there for a variety of reasons, which we're going to talk about, but certainly we wanted to make sure that that people got serviced and was done in a safe manner.
Sure. There's been a lot of talk about these missing absentee ballots that have now appeared. What's the latest with that whole story?
Well, we started hearing calls from residents, and it was certainly a mystery to us because every day our clerk's office, because of the extra staffing we had, we cleared the decks every single day and had the ballots out because we knew people wanted to fill them out and get them back in time for Election Day. And the most conscientious of all the people who voted were the ones who right away started asking for absentee ballots. And we sent them out diligently, but people weren't receiving them. And they were growing frustrated, which is absolutely understandable that they did. And it was just a mystery to us. And we checked all of our processes. Did we do anything wrong? And we couldn't identify anything. We backtracked a lot of stuff. We also brought it to the post office's attention, and they could not find anything. However, the day after Election Day, it was disclosed to us from the Wisconsin Elections Commission, which is an independent state body, that some envelopes of ballots, presumably the ballots that people hadn't received here, and it was identified for the Appleton, Oshkosh area. We don't know anything more than that right now. I don't even know which facility they were found at. We just know it was in this general region. But our region goes all the way down to Milwaukee and all the way up to the UP. So we're still trying to find out exactly what happened, but we were informed that there were ballots that were there. Presumably those are the ones that were never delivered to our residents. So what we did in response, as residents started to bring it to our attention, we tried to figure out, well, what can we do? Because originally, once that ballot's mailed to them, we can't help them anymore. But we worked with the Elections Commission to allow people to have that ballot canceled, which then enabled them to come in and vote on Election Day. That made for some pretty long lines at the beginning of the day, because again, these people are among the most conscientious of all the voters we had. They showed up early. They wanted to get this thing fixed so they could vote. And it took some time because we had to work with the Elections Board and the My Vote site, which is a state-run site, to get that all cleaned off. And it was taking too long. Finally, the Elections Board said, let these people vote. And so we started doing it. And it wasn't until then that the crowd started to ease. But we were pretty much closed at 8 o'clock, the normal closing time. But I think it's because we used the volunteers. We stayed on top of it. And we were trying to fix the problem once we identified that a problem existed, and I think it helped. It was far from perfect, though, John, and I know there are residents that are unhappy with that. And you know what? I agree with them. And we certainly want to get to the bottom of what happened, and we certainly had no intention of having this happen. In fact, we were on the forefront of encouraging people to do mail-in voting, and we knew we were going to get a big demand for that. We took care of that end, but some of these folks never got their ballots, which I think is just wrong, and we have to figure out, make sure this doesn't happen again.
Sure. All right, so what's next with the election process itself? We're taping this the Thursday before Easter. Is it next week that they'll finalize the absentee ballots and counting them all and all that?
All the absentee ballots must be postmarked by April 7th and received in the clerk's office by 4 p.m. Monday, April 13th. At that point, the clerk can begin the counting process for those remaining ballots. and I suspect that Monday evening we'll get the results out there so everybody's aware of them.
Okay. Let's switch gears and talk about that fun time of year for construction. It's that time of year. It's coming up again. And with all the COVID, I know we kind of got all caught up with that, obviously. But we have an Oregon Street project starting on Monday, and this is going to be a big project. And people might say, we just did Oregon Street. Well, this is now the southern portion, correct?
Yeah, this is phase 3 of a 5-year project, and now we're getting into where we're getting out into the more rural, remote areas of Oshkosh. But this is all about upgrading the sewer along Oregon Street to facilitate development to the south. So we're starting on the north end this year at West 21st and going all the way down to West 28th. Sort of the cutoff is at Glatz Creek, and that's kind of where the R and E on Oregon are there. So it's going to be an urban street, curb and gutter and everything, along with the new sewer, all the way down to Glatz Creek. And then south of Glatz Creek, it's really more just about the sewer. We're not doing a full street reconstruction there, but the sewer gets pretty deep when you get out there because we're trying to get it to gravity flow to our treatment plant. So this is going to make Oregon Street, in that area, pretty busy for about 18 weeks all the way down to Glatz Creek. South of Glatz Creek, it's only going to be about an 8-week project.
All right, so that's starting on Monday, April 13th.
Yeah, so be prepared to dodge construction traffic for the summer.
All right, let's talk about the annual bridge inspections. 3 of our bridges are going to be maintained. This is kind of their annual maintenance, if you will, coming up on Wednesday, April 15th.
Winnebago County does this on behalf of the state, and they're going to do them all in one day. So Wednesday, April 15th, be on the lookout. They're going to be closing kind of the right lanes in each of the bridges. So just make sure, around 9 a.m., stay away from Main Street. Around 11, stay away from the Jackson-Oregon Street Bridge, and then the Wisconsin Avenue Bridge at 2 p.m. They're going to be working on that. So the idea is about 2 hours in each of the areas. So we're going to miss the morning rush hour, and if they're done by 4, they should miss the bulk of the afternoon rush hour.
Okay. And of course, it's springtime, so people are starting to get out in their gardens and start to work around things and dig out from the snow and the leaves and everything. So it's brush collection started this week. So let's kind of walk people through what they can be prepared for that.
Well, as long as the weather holds up and a lot of people are staying at home anyway, so they might as well do some garden work. So again, curbside brush starts collecting on your garbage day the first full week of the month, and so. We're in the middle, that has already taken place for April, but that's going to continue. But tree branches, leaves, hedge clippings, and garden debris, get them in biodegradable bags or bundled and tied. Please, no grass or dirt or root balls or stumps or plastic bags. And then, of course, we want to get everybody, those are all the rules that you see right there. But we also want to remind people that the annual spring cleanup is April 27th to March 15th. So we're going to, that's really when we begin in earnest and start collecting that on a pretty regular basis for the 3-week period while we're doing big cleanup. But of course, our yard waste drop-off center is now open for seasonal hours. It's Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturday and Sunday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. with the caveat that we have 2 holidays coming up, Good Friday and Easter Sunday. We're not going to be operating the facility, so just they're both holidays that we're going to ask people don't bring it because we won't be open. You can still get yard waste permits even though City Hall's not open. You can go to our website, print out an application, mail it to us, and Kits and File is still open for that purpose as well. And you can get your yard waste drop-off permit at either of those locations or options.
I think a good thing you pointed out, though, is just remember the Good Friday and Easter Sunday, none of these locations are open for the drop-off. So
exactly. So
right.
Hopefully you can save it for the next weekend.
Give you something to do the next weekend. You're out there. Okay, well, that wraps up kind of the things we want to talk about before we take a quick break here. When we come back to the City Manager's Report, we're going to talk a little bit about more of the highlights coming up on the various agenda items for the Tuesday, April 14th Oshkosh Common Council meeting. Stay tuned. We're going to be right back with the City Manager's Report right after this.
Hi, I'm Dr. John Brooks with the CDC. You've probably read some recent reports about how long COVID-19 can last in the air or on surfaces. A recent study by NIH and CDC suggested that COVID can persist in the air and on surfaces for hours up to even days. Now, this was a study performed in a laboratory setting, but we don't yet know how that translates to the real world, where things are often very different. These studies are important. We're going to continue doing them, and as we learn more information about what this means to you and your home, we'll keep you informed. Let me remind you, though, how COVID-19 is transmitted. COVID-19 is transmitted primarily through respiratory droplets. That means particles that come out into the air and then settle relatively quickly. This is different than diseases like measles or tuberculosis, that when they get into the air, they can float there for a very long time. What can you do to protect yourself against COVID-19 in your home? Using disinfectants. Sure, COVID-19 comes out, it may fall onto a surface, and it could be there for a couple of hours. But the minute you use disinfectant, it's killed. Let's work together to keep ourselves healthy, our families healthy, and our communities healthy. If you want more information about COVID-19, go to www.cdc.gov/COVID-19.
Welcome back to the City Manager's Report. I'm your host, John Urban. Joining me as usual, City Manager for the City of Oshkosh, Mark Roloff. We're now going to turn our attention to a couple of the agenda items we want to highlight on the upcoming Tuesday, April 14th, Oshkosh Common Council meeting. As a reminder, that meeting can be seen live on GovTV. You can watch it on our YouTube channels. You can watch it live on our website. We'll have more information about all the details on that, but certainly you can check in and tune us in live. And just a reminder, there's no public input that must be in writing for these meetings because of the COVID, and we've got it all over the agenda in terms of the way it works with that, so please keep that in mind. Mark, turning our attention to some of these agenda items, the first item we wanted to talk about was Resolution 2151, and this is submitting a grant for the next phase of Riverwalk, and we're getting pretty close with most of the Riverwalk being completed after this, correct? We're
making wonderful progress. We had a run of 9 years where we got a grant every single year. This past year was the first year in a number of years, but we'd had such a good run that it was our streak was bound to end at some point. But we're getting ready to submit a new one and get ourselves back on a winning streak. We're going to be asking for $700,000 to get the next phase of the Riverwalk done that we've identified from Main Street, the south of the bridge, east over to what Old Pioneer Drive, which is now going to be closed, all the way to the tracks where Pioneer Drive runs north and south. So the total project is going to be about $1.4 million, and so the grant is intended to cover about 50% of the cost. If we get this grant, the idea would be to do it next year in 2021.
Awesome. All right, we want to talk about item 13, which is Resolution 2153. This item was laid over from the last council meeting, and this is to fix basically some of the masonry on the chimneys at the Carriage House at the museum.
The Carriage House at the museum is mainly a storage area for the museum, and we redid the roof a few years ago, and it was a very expensive project, and the bids weren't the greatest because of the time that we were bidding. It was a very competitive environment, so we were unable to get the chimney work done. Basically masonry going around the roof, but one of the challenges, and Brad Larson, our museum director, pointed out, Brad's been with us for over 30 years.
Started when he was 10.
He started when he was 10, but in none of those 30 years have we ever done any work on that chimney. And now it's really starting to show its age, it's cracking, the masonry is chipping away, and what happens is when that takes place, water seeps in. We just have a brand new roof, and the whole idea was to get all that masonry work done so that it would no longer seep into the roof and it will give more life to the roof. So, I didn't have all that information with me, and we were trying to keep the last meeting very limited in terms of number of people attending, but the council wanted more information, and so we're bringing it back, but this is already budgeted, so it's just a matter of awarding the bid at this point.
All right, we now get into several items under new resolutions that are really all in some way COVID related, with the exception of one in the middle of this. But the first two items, Resolution 154 and 155, this is to kind of help attempt to provide some relief for citizens, correct?
Correct. We have two items here. One is to temporarily amend our special assessment policy during this emergency, that we won't send out bills in 2020 to residents. Now, actually, these are for projects that were done in 2019. We're typically a year delayed in that, but we don't want to put a financial burden on people who may have been laid off or furloughed or less revenue or had to stay home to take care of the kids because the kids can't go to school. So many different reasons. We want to provide some temporary relief. This doesn't forgive that, but it gives them time to stretches it out an extra year to pay it. We start repayment in 21 instead of 20. Council asked us to do that, and we're taking care of that.
And then item 15, which is this suspend certain provisions in relation to public utilities, it's also to help homeowners.
Right. The Public Service Commission has already granted us the authority to waive late fees and penalties for water bills. Public Service Commission doesn't have jurisdiction over sewer, sanitary sewer, and storm sewer. Council does. So council asked about also giving some relief. If people can't pay their bills because they got to feed the family or something like that, we don't want them to be worried about these bills at this time, so we're going to waive the penalties. We encourage people to make their payments if at all possible, and please call us. Our utility division billing folks will be more than happy to work with you on a payment plan if that's something you need, but we're going to waive the late fees and penalties for now.
We're going to talk about two resolutions coming up in a second about how we're trying to provide some relief for businesses, but in the sandwich between these is item number 16, approved transportation agreement with Oshkosh Area School District for student transportation. This has been discussed for over a year, and can you kind of tell us the terms of what's going to happen with this?
Back in February, the council had given agreement in principle to this, and so we've worked with the school district to identify something that we can help them on a short-term basis to bridge the gap between now and 2 years from now, when they'll be responsible for covering the entire cost of the program. Everywhere else this is done, the school district pays 100% of the cost. We're going to provide relief for 1/3 of it, but they have to come up with 1/3 from private donations and 1/3 from their own resources, and this would enable school children to ride the buses beginning July 1, 2020 through June of 2022. They'll be able to ride GO Transit buses for free.
Okay. Item number 17 and 18, helping the businesses now a little bit. Item 17, approve economic development revolving loan fund for COVID-19 emergency response. Sounds like you're creating a special fund for this?
We already have a revolving loan fund created, and we've got about $1.25 million, $1.25 million in this fund. And what we're doing is we're taking $250,000 of it and transferring it over to GoEDC for some emergency type of assistance to businesses that may be having cash flow issues because they're getting a fraction of their business that they normally would get. It's really to cover fixed costs, basic staffing, utilities, mortgage or rent, things like that. We want to help bridge this gap because this happened so suddenly to so many of these businesses. They were thriving, doing very well, and then this emergency hits. So that's the first $250,000. I will give a shout out to GoEDC. They've already used $50,000 of their own reserves to do some of these, but they don't have unlimited resources, nor do we. So this is just providing $250,000 out of our regular revolving loan fund to do this short-term fix to help these folks.
All right, and then now item 18, 2158, approved budget amendment for TID 16 100 block redevelopment. How does this work?
This is our tax increment district that is the old 100 block building.
Okay.
And we are allowed by law to extend benefits to a half-mile radius around that area. So this will enable us to take some of the surplus funds that are in there and use it for a second revolving loan fund. We'll also let GoEDC administer this, but it'll be for that specific area. So this will be targeted pretty much for the downtown area. And again, same reasons. If you've got some cash flow issues, we want to help you during this tough time. So now we're up to $500,000, and our staff is continuing to work with GoEDC to identify some other funds that we can make available. You'll probably see that in subsequent meetings. Our goal is to get over $1 million of capital injected into our local economy to help businesses just bridge this gap, to help them through these tough times. And hopefully it's just a short time.
That sounds like it's well needed. Okay, item number 19, Resolution 2159, under new resolutions, award bid for Public Works contract, talking about the Snell Road construction project.
This is our second big street project for the year. We've bid it out. We've gotten some very good bids, but this is over on Snell Road, and it starts over near County Park and goes west over to Jackson Street. So look at the condition of this road.
Anyone that's driven down this road knows how bad it is.
There's a scale we have from 1 to 10, 1 being the worst. This is rated a 2, so this is as bad as it gets. It's a rural section of road in a large part of the area, and what that means is with the ditches, the water gets underneath that road and it just stays there. We're going to urbanize this, which means we're going to put curb and gutter, storm sewer, and get the water out of there. It'll help make the road last a lot longer, and we're happy to be able to do that. But this is a almost $4.4 million bid award. But it's absolutely necessary. People expect us to keep doing the basics of government, and street reconstruction is absolutely something I think we need to continue doing. I think that's what the public expects of us.
Under council discussion, direction to city manager, future agenda, there's an item number 27, carryover of 2019 budget surplus. What can you tell us about this?
Well, good news on one hand in that we projected about a $1.7 million surplus, and that's what we have. We have a $1.7 million surplus over what we had in 2019. So that $1.7 million, we discussed it with council last fall. There were some projects that they wanted to do, but they were a little hesitant to tax or borrow anymore. So they said, if you're projecting this surplus, why don't we wait until we get the numbers finalized, then we can decide. So we've got a list of projects. A lot of them are public facility related, but there's some other ones as well. And we just want to say, okay, with everything going on with the COVID-19 emergency, we have the surplus. Do you want us to bring these projects back, or do you want to wait a while? And that's really what we're trying to get council to decide, if they want to wait a little bit.
Speaking of the COVID emergency, under your city manager announcements, you want to talk about the temporary sign regulations that you've put in place?
This is more on the regulatory side to help businesses. We have some rules that people have to go through. And, businesses are trying to do curbside service, for example, for restaurants. What we're doing is we're just going to waive the rules. We're going to say, if you need to put up a temporary sign to let people know that you have pickup service now, where maybe that wasn't your thing before, we want you to be able to do that. So we're doing that and lessening some rules on certified survey maps. If you're developing, you want things to go fast, your window of opportunity can be very narrow. We don't want to stand in your way. We certainly want to do health and safety, but these are things I think we can do in the short run and not sacrifice public safety.
And last question to you, it says we're going into recess until noon. That's a little different than normal.
Normal because it's the end of the council terms, and there's a changeover. It's called the reorganizational meeting. On noon on April 21st, there'll be a brief meeting to say so long to the council members who are leaving and swear in the new council members, and then council reorganizes. So we're just recessing this meeting rather than just ending it.
All right, thank you, Mark. That wraps up a preview of the Tuesday, April 14th Oshkosh Common Council meeting. That's also wrapping up this edition of the City Manager's Report. We want to make sure that you can tune in live to GovTV to watch us Tuesday, April 14th. Starts at 6 o'clock live. Make sure to check us out on Facebook at Oshkosh Media, or follow us on Twitter. Or you can check out our YouTube channel for government meeting replays and past episodes of your favorite programs. Don't forget, if you have a question for City Manager Mark Roloff, post it on our Facebook page or email questionmark@ci.oshkosh.wi.us, and he'll answer it on the next episode of CMR. So for City Manager Mark Roloff, I'm John Urban. Thanks for watching this edition of the City Manager's Report. Good night.